All right, so we're going to dive into something that's had people, scratching their heads for ages.
Yeah.
This whole idea of know thyself. I mean, it's everywhere, right? Like
Right.
ancient temples, dusty philosophy books,
Yep.
even like those inspirational quotes your aunt shares on social media.
Oh, yeah.
Why does this concept have such staying power?
Well,
Why are we still talking about it after all these years?
it's interesting because know thyself isn't about listing off like your favorite pizza toppings
Yeah.
or memorizing your social security number.
Right.
It's about something uh, much deeper.
Yeah.
Imagine peeling back layers and layers to discover the real, like the essence of who you are at your core.
So we're not talking about like the surface level stuff here. We're
Yeah.
talking about like a deep dive
Exactly.
into our inner workings.
Yes.
And luckily, we've got some amazing resources to kind of like guide us on this journey.
We do.
We've got ancient wisdom, philosophical texts, personal stories, even a diagram to help us visualize some of these ideas.
Yeah, today we're on a mission to unpack these sources and see what they can teach us about self-knowledge
Okay.
and how to actually put it into practice.
Yeah.
Make it work for us in our everyday lives.
All right, I'm ready to unpack. And I
Right.
think the perfect place to start is with the phrase itself, know thyself, etched on the temple at Delphi.
Yeah.
What made this seemingly simple phrase so impactful that it's still resonating, thousands of years later?
That inscription at Delphi, it's like a signpost pointing us inward.
Okay.
It's a reminder that understanding ourselves is the foundation for understanding everything else.
Right.
It's not about collecting facts about yourself,
Right.
but rather about looking inward and asking those tough questions.
Yeah.
What do I believe?
Yeah.
Why do I act the way I do?
Mm-hmm.
What truly motivates me?
So it's about digging deep, not just skimming the surface.
Exactly.
And speaking of digging deep, that's where diagram 2B comes in. It shows the difference between being the unchanging core of who we are
Yes.
and becoming.
Mm-hmm.
All those thoughts, feelings, and experiences that are constantly changing.
That diagram is a great tool for understanding how ancient thinkers viewed the true self.
Okay.
They were talking about something deeper than our fleeting emotions or the roles we play in life.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking about the unchanging essence of who we are,
Right.
the part that remains constant, even as everything else around us shifts and changes.
Okay, so that makes sense, but how does that actually play out in real life?
Mhm.
Do we really have a core self that stays the same while everything else is changing?
Well, think about it this way.
Okay.
Have you ever noticed how you can be in completely different situations?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're stressed at work, then happy with your family, then frustrated in traffic.
Yeah.
But there's still a sense of you experiencing all those things.
Hmm. That's a really interesting point. It's like,
Yeah.
even though my emotions and thoughts are all over the place, there's still a me observing it all.
Exactly.
Like a constant.
And many philosophical and spiritual traditions suggest that this observing self is the key to true self-knowledge.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But if we're constantly bombarded with, thoughts and feelings,
Right.
how do we actually tap into that deeper self?
Hmm.
How do we kind of quiet the noise and get to the heart of who we are?
One way to think about it is like this.
Okay.
Imagine a teacup that's already full to the brim.
Okay.
If you try to pour more tea into it, what happens?
It spills everywhere.
Right.
I've definitely been there trying to cram more into my schedule than humanly possible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's similar to how our minds often work.
Oh.
We're so full of our own thoughts, opinions, and beliefs that there's no room for anything new.
So are you saying we need to empty our cup? Like let go of all of our preconceived notions and biases?
There's a Zen story that illustrates this point perfectly.
Okay.
Have you ever heard the story of Nan and the overflowing teacup?
Oh, yes. I love that story.
Okay, good.
It's so simple, yet so insightful.
Right.
Yeah.
So in this story, a professor goes to visit a Zen master to learn about Zen.
Okay.
The master pours the professor a cup of tea, but keeps pouring even after the cup is full.
Right.
The tea spills everywhere, and the professor finally says, "Stop. It's overflowing. No more will go in."
Yep.
The master replies, "Like this cup, you are full of your own opinions and speculations.
Oh.
How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup?"
It's a great metaphor for how our own preconceptions can get in the way of true learning and understanding. We're so attached to our own ideas that we miss out on new perspectives.
And this applies directly to self-knowledge as well.
Okay.
If we approach self-discovery with a cup that's already overflowing with assumptions about who we are,
Yeah.
we're likely to miss the subtle nuances and deeper truths that are waiting to be revealed.
So we need to approach self-discovery with an open mind, a beginner's mind,
Right.
ready to let go of our preconceived notions and embrace new possibilities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about approaching the journey with humility and curiosity,
Yeah.
recognizing that we may not have all the answers,
Okay.
and that there's always more to learn about ourselves.
This brings up a question for me.
Yeah.
How do we actually go about emptying our cups?
Mm,
The source material mentions something called an awareness exercise.
right.
What is that exactly?
The awareness exercise is a technique for cultivating mindfulness and self-awareness.
Okay.
It's designed to help you become more aware of your thoughts, feelings, and sensations in the present moment, without judging them or getting carried away by them.
So instead of getting swept up in our thoughts and emotions, we learn to observe them more objectively.
Yes.
Almost like we're stepping back and watching them from a distance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the more we practice this, the more we realize that we are not our thoughts or feelings.
Okay.
We are the awareness that is experiencing them.
This reminds me of that anecdote about the philosophy student who used the awareness exercise to calm his nerves before surgery.
Right? He was understandably anxious about the surgery.
Yeah.
But by practicing the awareness exercise,
Uh-huh.
he was able to observe his anxiety without getting overwhelmed by it.
Okay.
In fact, he was so calm that the nurse even commented on his remarkably low anxiety score.
Wow.
It just goes to show you that these techniques can have real-world benefits.
Yeah. That's amazing how simply paying attention to our inner world can have such a profound impact on our outer experience.
It is.
But if we're supposed to be looking inward for answers,
Right.
how does that connect with our desire to achieve things in the external world? Do we have to choose one or the other?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it brings us to a fascinating story by Rudyard Kipling.
Okay.
He wrote about the gods hiding man's divinity within himself.
Oh, I love that story.
Okay.
It's like a cosmic hide-and-seek game, right?
Exactly. The gods decided to hide man's greatest treasure, his divinity.
Uh-huh.
And they debated where to put it.
Yeah.
They considered hiding it on a mountaintop, at the bottom of the ocean,
Mm-hmm.
but they finally decided to hide it within man himself.
So we're running around looking for something that's already inside us?
Yeah.
That's hilarious and kind of profound at the same time.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it suggests that what we often seek externally,
Okay.
power, happiness, fulfillment,
Right.
might actually be found within.
It's like that saying, the kingdom of God is within you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this idea resonates with what James Allen wrote in As a Man Thinketh.
Okay.
Only by much searching and mining are gold and diamonds obtained.
Mm-hmm.
And man can find every truth connected with his being if he will dig deep into the mine of his soul.
So the real treasure is buried within.
Yeah,
We just need to do the digging.
that's right.
Now I'm imagining myself with a pickaxe and a headlamp spelunking into my soul.
I love that image.
Yeah.
And speaking of digging deep, there's a great quote from St. Augustine about how people travel the world to marvel at mountains and oceans,
Yeah.
but neglect to explore the wonders within themselves.
You're right, he said. People travel to wonder at the height of mountains, at the huge waves of the sea, at the long courses of rivers, at the vast compass of the ocean, at the circular motion of stars.
Yeah.
And they pass by themselves without wondering.
It's like we're so focused on the external that we forget the most fascinating world it all might be right here inside us.
And speaking of vast inner worlds, there's that incredible statement from Hildegard von Bingen.
Yes.
Humanity, take a good look at yourself. Inside you have got heaven and earth and all of creation.
Wow.
You are a world. Everything is hidden in you.
That's a powerful image.
Talk about expanding your sense of self.
Right.
To think that we contain the entire universe within us.
Yeah.
It's almost too big to grasp.
It is mind-blowing, isn't it? And it aligns with philosophical ideas like Plato's world soul and the concept of the microcosm reflecting the macrocosm.
Okay. But if we truly contain the whole universe within us,
Right.
where do we even begin to explore that vastness?
Well, Hildegard also emphasizes the importance of cultivating thoughts that are neither frivolous nor flippant but harmonious.
Oh.
It's like she's saying that our thoughts shape our inner world.
Mm-hmm.
And by choosing thoughts that are aligned with our highest aspirations,
Right.
we create a more harmonious and expansive experience of ourselves.
So it's not just about what's inside us, but also about the quality of our thoughts and
Yes.
how they shape our inner landscape.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this connects back to the awareness exercise.
Okay.
By practicing mindfulness, we become more aware of the thoughts that are shaping our reality.
Right.
And can choose to cultivate thoughts that lead to greater peace, insight, and harmony.
This makes me think of that quote from Rumi.
Uh-huh.
People of the world do not look at themselves, and so they blame one another.
Ah, yes, that's a powerful one.
Yeah.
And it perfectly illustrates how a lack of self-awareness can lead to conflict and misunderstanding.
Right.
If we don't understand our own motivations and biases, we project them onto others and create unnecessary friction.
So, know thyself isn't just about personal growth.
Right.
It's also about creating a more peaceful and harmonious world.
Exactly. Self-knowledge is the foundation for healthy relationships, both with ourselves and with others.
And Plato had a similar thought, didn't he?
He did.
Something about the soul needing to understand itself before it can understand other creatures.
You're thinking of this quote. How can the soul, which misunderstands itself, have a sure idea of other creatures?
Yes.
He's basically saying that self-knowledge is the prerequisite for understanding others and the world around us.
It seems like know thyself is more than just a philosophical concept. It's the key to unlocking a deeper understanding of ourselves, our relationships, and the world we live in.
Absolutely. And this brings us to a fascinating excerpt from Plato's Timaeus,
Okay.
where he describes the demiurge, the divine craftsman looking to the eternal when creating the world.
Okay, now this is where I need a little help.
All right.
What exactly is the demiurge?
In Plato's philosophy, the demiurge is the creator of the universe.
Okay.
Imagine a master artist or craftsman who brings the world into being according to a perfect eternal blueprint.
Okay, so the demiurge isn't just making things up as he goes along.
No,
He's looking to something higher for inspiration.
exactly. He's not creating randomly.
Right.
He's drawing inspiration from something unchanging and eternal.
Okay.
And this brings up an interesting question.
All right.
If the demiurge, this divine creator, looked to the eternal when creating the world,
Mm-hmm.
what does that tell us about our own creative potential?
Whoa, that is a big question.
It is.
Are you saying that we, like the demiurge, have the capacity to create our lives according to a higher purpose?
It's a fascinating possibility, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder,
Hmm.
what does it mean to be the artificer of our own experience?
Yeah.
What kind of blueprint are we using to shape our lives?
Hmm.
Yeah.
So we're not just talking about understanding ourselves, but maybe even using that understanding to shape our lives in a more deliberate way.
Yeah.
It's like we have this incredible creative potential within us,
Yes.
but we need to tap into it.
And it all starts with asking ourselves that fundamental question. Who am I?
It sounds simple, but I have to admit I probably haven't really sat down and seriously asked myself that question in a long time.
You'd be surprised how many of us go through life without really taking the time to explore that question deeply. We get caught up in the day-to-day, our jobs, our relationships, our to-do lists, and we lose touch with that deeper sense of self.
So where do we even begin?
Hmm.
If we want to peel back the layers and discover who we truly are, what's the first step?
One helpful starting point comes from Shahinsananda Sarasvati, who said, if you begin to be what you are, you will realize everything. But to begin to be what you are, you must come out of what you are not.
Okay, that sounds pretty cryptic.
Yeah.
What does it mean to come out of what you are not?
It's about recognizing that our true self is not just our job title, our relationship status,
Right.
or the thoughts and feelings that are constantly swirling around in our minds.
Yeah.
It's about separating ourselves from those external identifiers and those fleeting mental states.
So we need to see past those surface layers
Right.
and delve deeper into the unchanging essence of who we are.
Exactly.
Kind of like we were talking about with the being and becoming diagram earlier.
Yes. Shantananda Sarasvati goes on to say, you are not those thoughts which are turning in your mind. You are not those changing feelings. You are not the different decisions you make and the different wills you have. You are not that separate ego.
It sounds like we need to let go of all those things we normally identify with.
Right.
Our thoughts, our emotions, our roles in society.
Yeah.
But how do we actually do that? It
Mhm.
seems pretty abstract.
It is abstract, but there are practical tools and techniques that can help.
Okay.
Remember the awareness exercise we talked about earlier?
Uh-huh.
That's a great way to start creating some distance between ourselves and those fleeting mental states.
Right, where we become more like an observer of our thoughts and feelings instead of getting swept away by them.
Exactly.
Mm.
And as we develop this ability to observe our inner world, we start to notice patterns.
Okay.
Maybe we see that certain thoughts trigger certain emotions.
All right.
Or that we tend to react in predictable ways to certain situations.
And by recognizing those patterns, do we gain more freedom to choose how we respond?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Instead of being ruled by unconscious habits and reactions,
Yeah.
we start to make more conscious choices.
Okay.
We can choose thoughts and behaviors that are aligned with our values and aspirations.
So it's not just about understanding ourselves, but also about using that understanding to create a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
Absolutely. Self-knowledge isn't an end in itself.
Right.
It's a tool for creating the life we want.
Yeah.
It's about empowering ourselves to live authentically and make choices that reflect our deepest values and aspirations.
This makes me think about that story we discussed earlier, the one about the gods hiding man's divinity within himself. It's like
Yeah.
we have this incredible potential within us, but we're often looking for it in all the wrong places.
That's such a powerful analogy.
Yeah.
It suggests that the journey of self-discovery is ultimately about uncovering our own inner divinity, our own true nature. It's about recognizing the incredible power and wisdom that reside within each of us.
So instead of chasing external validation or material possessions, we should be focusing on cultivating our inner world, our inner strength.
Exactly. The answers we seek are not out there in the world, they're within us.
Mhm.
We just need to have the courage to look inward and the patience to uncover them.
You know, it's funny, you're making me think of those old treasure maps where X marks the spot. It's like we're all on a treasure hunt,
Uh-huh.
but the map is hidden within ourselves.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And the journey of self-discovery is about deciphering that map piece by piece, clue by clue.
But what if we get lost along the way?
Hmm.
What if we encounter roadblocks or start doubting ourselves?
That's perfectly normal.
Yeah.
The journey of self-discovery isn't always easy. It can be challenging, even uncomfortable at times, but that's part of the process. It's through those challenges that we grow and learn.
So how do we navigate those challenges? What advice do our sources offer for those moments when we feel lost or discouraged?
Well, Ananda Mayamau offers some wise words on this.
Yeah.
She says, acquire a firm will and utmost patience. Precious gems are profoundly buried in the earth and can only be extracted at the expense of great labor.
So it's about perseverance, about not giving up on ourselves even when the going gets tough.
Exactly. Self-discovery isn't a quick fix. It's a lifelong journey that requires commitment, patience, and a willingness to face our own shadows.
And it sounds like humility is key as well. Remember the Zen story of the overflowing teacup?
Right.
It reminds us to approach this journey with an open mind and a willingness to let go of our preconceived notions.
Absolutely. Humility is essential. We need to be willing to admit that we don't have all the answers,
Yeah.
that we're still learning and growing.
Right.
And that's okay. In fact, it's in that space of not knowing that true learning can occur.
So it's about embracing the mystery, the unknown, and trusting that the journey itself will lead us to where we need to be.
Exactly. It's about having faith in the process and in ourselves. And as we continue on this path of self-discovery, we'll inevitably encounter moments of insight and clarity, moments where the pieces of the puzzle start to fall into place.
And those moments make the journey worthwhile, right?
They do.
Those aha moments where we suddenly understand something about ourselves that we didn't before.
Absolutely. Those moments of insight are like precious gems that we uncover along the way. They're reminders that we're on the right path and that the journey is worth the effort.
But it's not just about those big aha moments, is it?
Right.
It's also about the small, everyday discoveries we make about ourselves.
You're absolutely right. Every moment of self-reflection, every time we choose to act in alignment with our values, every time we extend compassion to ourselves and others, we're deepening our self-knowledge and creating a more authentic and fulfilling life.
So it seems like self-discovery is an ongoing process, something we continue to cultivate throughout our lives.
Exactly. There's no finish line to this journey. It's about continually evolving and growing, becoming more and more aligned with our true selves.
Okay, but what does it actually look like to live in alignment with our true selves? How do we know when we're getting closer to that goal?
That's a great question. I think the answer lies in the feeling of inner peace and harmony that arises when we're living in accordance with our values and aspirations.
So it's that feeling of wholeness, of being integrated and at ease with who we are. Like all the different parts of ourselves are finally working together.
Exactly. About feeling a sense of purpose and meaning in our lives, knowing that we're living in a way that reflects our deepest truths.
And that feeling of inner peace and harmony, does it have a ripple effect on the world around us? I mean, can our self-discovery actually make a difference in the world?
Absolutely. When we're at peace with ourselves, we're more likely to extend that peace and compassion to others. We become more understanding, more forgiving, more loving.
So self-discovery is not just about personal transformation. It's about contributing to a more peaceful and harmonious world.
Precisely. It's about recognizing our interconnectedness,
Ah.
understanding that our inner state has a direct impact on the world around us.
This makes me think of that powerful statement from Hildegard von Bingen, where she says, humanity, take a good look at yourself. Inside, you have got heaven and earth and all of creation. You are a world, everything is hidden in you.
That's such a beautiful reminder of our vastness and our interconnectedness.
Yeah.
It's a call to recognize the incredible potential within each of us and to use that potential to create a world that reflects our highest aspirations.
It's like she's saying that each of us has a whole universe inside us waiting to be explored and expressed.
Exactly. And that brings us back to the inscription at Delphi, Know Thyself. It's not just a philosophical concept, it's a call to action. It's an invitation to embark on a journey of self-discovery, to uncover our own inner divinity, and to use that wisdom to create a more peaceful and harmonious world.
So it's about both the inner journey and the outer expression, about bringing what we discover within us out into the world.
Absolutely. And as we continue on this journey, we'll inevitably encounter challenges and setbacks. But remember the words of Anandamaya: acquire a firm will and utmost patience. Precious gems are profoundly buried in the earth and can only be extracted at the expense of great labor.
So it's about perseverance, about not giving up on ourselves or on the journey.
Exactly. It's about trusting that the process will lead us to where we need to be, even if the path isn't always clear. And as we continue to explore the depths of our being, we'll discover that the journey of self-discovery is not just about finding ourselves. It's about creating ourselves. It's about becoming the best versions of who we can be.
That's a powerful thought. It's like we're not just uncovering something that's already there, we're actively shaping ourselves as we go along.
Mm.
What if we approached life as a grand experiment in self-creation? What if each day was an opportunity to sculpt ourselves, to cultivate the qualities we admire, to become the people we truly want to be? It's like we're all artists shaping our own masterpieces, right? But instead of paint and canvas, we're using our choices, our actions, our thoughts.
Yeah, our thoughts to create our lives.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's a brilliant way to put it. And just like any artist, we need to be mindful of the materials we're using, the composition we're creating.
Yeah.
Self-awareness is like our artist's palette, giving us the tools and understanding to create something truly meaningful.
So the more we understand ourselves, our strengths, our weaknesses, what makes us tick,
Uh-huh.
the better equipped we are to shape our lives in a way that feels authentic and fulfilling.
Exactly. It's like having a blueprint, but also being open to inspiration and improvisation along the way.
But what happens when we make mistakes?
Hmm.
What if our masterpiece ends up looking a little, well, less than perfect?
That's all part of the creative process.
Okay.
No artist creates a flawless masterpiece on their first try. It's through experimentation, through those happy accidents, through learning from our mistakes, that we refine our skills and ultimately create something truly unique.
So it's not about striving for perfection,
No.
but about embracing the journey, the messiness, the unexpected detours along the way. Exactly. Those imperfections, those unexpected twists and turns often lead to the most profound discoveries and the most beautiful creations.
It makes me think about Hildegard von Bingen's quote about cultivating harmonious thoughts.
Right.
It's like if we want to create a harmonious life, we need to start by cultivating a harmonious inner world.
You're absolutely right. Our thoughts are the seeds of our actions, and our actions shape our reality.
Yeah.
So if we want to live a life filled with peace, joy, and purpose, we need to start by cultivating thoughts that are aligned with those aspirations.
This whole conversation has really shifted my perspective on know thyself.
Yeah.
It's not just a passive act of introspection, it's a dynamic process of creation. We're not just discovering who we are, we're actively shaping ourselves, our lives, even our impact on the world.
Beautifully said. It's a lifelong adventure of uncovering our potential, refining our character, and expressing our unique gifts in the world.
And it all starts with that simple question.
Yeah.
Who am I? But it doesn't end there. It continues with a commitment to exploring that question with curiosity, courage, and a willingness to embrace the fullness of who we are in all our messy, magnificent complexity.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Know Thyself,
Okay.
let me leave you with one final thought to ponder.
Right.
If you could ask your true self one question,
Mm-hmm.
what would it be? What wisdom might be waiting to be discovered within?
That's a powerful question. I encourage each of you to spend some time reflecting on it. The answers you find might just unlock a whole new level of self-understanding and inspire you to create a life that is truly aligned with your soul's purpose. Thanks for joining us on this journey of self-discovery.
Please go to finneganswakenotes.net for a full explanation of the text, and please don't forget to hit the like button.